Yeah, one of my favorite moments, so yesterday was a woman, and I was manning the cash box temporarily because I think you know how I feel about garage sales, not my thing. I love it when other people do them. That's great. So thankfully he's wonderful at it and is good at it and likes to do it. So I was sitting there and a woman, a couple walks up and she's gonna pay, and she's looking at a sticker and she goes, yeah, that's me, sober and boring. And I'm like, you need to read that again. It says sober, not boring. She kind of looked at it again, and that's when she said, she goes, yeah, it's been 72 days. Mm-hmm. We had a whole group surrounding her, cheering, clapping, whooping it up, and she just lit up. And I'm like, this is the problem. Nobody celebrated her 72 days. She felt like she was sober and boring. And that's how she just kind of walked up, like she was just resigned, like this is just how it's going to be. And what she received was joy and hooting and hollering and celebrating on the grass. And that to me represents what my community that I get to be part of does. And she walked out of there completely different than the way that she walked up. I was waiting, the 20 minutes for my lemonade that I maybe didn't have lemon in it, but that's okay. It's okay. It was busy. I was hangry, I'll admit it. But in the line, somebody's like, you need to check out that sale. And it's really cool though, because all the money goes to like this recovery place. I guess it's in Fenwick, and then people were laughing about Fenwick, and I'm like,
About the capital of Michigan.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, well, when you're fighting a war, you go to where the war is, right?
You bet.
Right? Like, why do you go find the cleaned up nice spots to go to war? Nothing's happening, you're not needed there. You go to where the war is. So that's why we're here. But those were just some moments that really, it was good reminders to me. Like, nobody knew who I was in that moment. They didn't know that I had a connection to outreach. So to hear strangers in a line at Stanton for this festival, it was just a beautiful thing. Yeah. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing. So it was a good day. So, and it is Memorial Day weekend. I don't say Happy Memorial Day because it's not what it's all about. We're honoring and remembering those who didn't get to come back home. I have this here. I've given this country 2 of my kiddos, one still actively serving and deployed. My husband served in the Army. My father served in the Army. I have a very military family that I come from. I'm remembering my nephew today. He was at Cabal when that mess happened, and those 13 that died were all his friends. So he is grieving. He is really going through it. And he's struggling with that. So it's those that we honor, those that didn't make it. Oh, stop it right now.
Get off it.
So we are remembering and honoring all of them.
Stella.
Oh, Stella. You're going to come pray with us, so.
Is your middle name Artois?
Oh, my. Okay, my day is made. I will never give her back. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my. Oh. I love church here. Oh. Goats and rabbits and dogs. It's so good. So
Squirrel.
I know, and I miss a squirrel. Like, my husband won't let me have them at home, so just bring them here so I can pet them. So on Memorial Day, it's like, just remember, we live in an amazing country of freedom, but that freedom costs a lot of people a whole lot. Some of them didn't come back. Others did, carrying the wounds of war. I know that I have 2 sons that, even though the one that's out didn't see full-blown stuff, still has some stuff he's got to deal with. I know my youngest one's going to come back because I know what he's had to do. Just remember them. I thank anyone here who has served. You have my gratitude. It is a difficult job and calling, and it's not something a lot of people can understand. And I want you to know that I love you. I am grateful for you. I am thankful for a country that I have the freedoms that I have say what you want to say about this country, you have the freedom to. And that's what makes us different. You don't have to like everything. You don't have to approve of everything. You don't have to accept of everything. You can strongly disagree, and you have the right to do that. And it's these people in our Navy and our Air Force, which, sorry, Navy and Air Force family members that I have. I don't have a stool for you, but we're, I have an immense amount of gratitude. I wish that it wasn't necessary to have a military. I wish that our world was one where that wasn't something that we need, but we live in a world that's broken and ugly and there's hate in it, and we need people that are willing to be our defenders. And to you that have answered that, I am deeply grateful to you for the cost that you were willing to pay for me. So thank you for me. So that is my Memorial Day thing. I don't know if there's any other announcements at all. Prayers for my cousin's husband. He's got a day or two left on hospice care. It went very fast. So yeah, and those of you that were remembering my granddaughter, she's doing very well. So I am grateful. She's doing good. It's likely that we're dealing with epilepsy. So we are hoping and praying that that will be wrong and there will be no more major seizures, but we're prepared for that if it happens. So I appreciate all your thoughts. It helped me a lot. Thank you. I didn't do the what if. I don't know why that keeps popping up there, but we'll get to it. I can't make it go away. So the What If book, for those of you who aren't familiar, this was written by Anne S.B. Smith when she was 100 years old. And she looked back at her life and the wisdom that she learned along the way. And she shared this. This entire book is made up of questions that start with what if, and then something to think about. Today I chose this one. What if we stop trying to earn God's love and we just let him love us? Sometimes we get so busy in the earning it, and you don't have to. This is the second part of what I was going to talk about on Sunday. We started about talking about self, and I recognized right away I had way too much to say about that, and this part of it was going to have to wait, and I'm really glad for that. It's been an amazing week for me, taking a deep dive into our perspective and views on other people in this world. We're talking about judging people today. And it has been fascinating. I've had the most amazing conversations over the past week. And it's just been a beautiful thing. I was convicted a lot and found that there's still things that I judge. And I need to address those and work on those, and I'm grateful for God and his mercy. But I've got it broken down into some kind of categories, and I chose them because I was raised in an environment where these were groups that typically were the recipients of our judgment and our hate and our non-acceptance, and we're going to talk about that today. And it is my hope and prayer that if any of these are an issue for you or were, that either you'll be convicted or you'll realize you don't have to sit and be weighed down by it. So let's just jump into it because I've got a lot I'm going to try and cover today as always. Here's a small list of things that we typically have heard about in so-called Christian communities. Dealing with other religions, people of politically differing views, racism, immigration, LGBTQ+, and just basic sinners in general. So let's start breaking this down a bit. We're going to go there because I ain't scared. You're going to get it. That's how it comes. I mean, I talk about hookup culture pretty openly, so I ain't afraid to talk about any of this. So if you want me to talk about hookup culture, I will, but I think you're sick of it. So anyways, we're going to leave that right there. All right, Romans 2, 1 through 2. I'm going to read that first, and then I'm going to talk about this for a little bit. Those people are on the dark spiral downward, but if you think that leaves you on the high ground where you can point your fingers at others, think again. Every time you criticize someone, you condemn yourself. It takes one to know one. Judgmental criticism of others is a well-known way of escaping detection in your own crimes and misdemeanors. But God isn't so easily diverted. He sees right through all such smoke screens and holds you to what you've done. Other religions, I think for many and for ages, really, I think probably since church began, it has been a battle with other religions. Buddhism, Hinduism, atheism, put all the isms or whatever kind of religions they are in the mix. We feel that it's open season to hate because we got it right, we're the only way believers, and wicked, vile people. They do horrible things in the name of their religion, and I'm not going to deny that. It's the reason my kid's not home and he's in the Middle East. I get it. I understand that. That's religion. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Religion can become a danger. I get that. I understand that. I'm not saying we have to agree with and support and all of the other things. I'm not saying that. There's very much a difference between acceptance and approval. We talked about that in a meeting. It was a great conversation, actually. We are not called to live a life of hate towards any group of people. In some situations, that becomes a really sticky and difficult situation. Throughout all of this, I'm going to be brutally honest with you about my own self and things that I have to struggle with, because I find making myself the example is far more comfortable for you than if I picked one of you. So I'm going to choose myself. And if you can identify with it, all the better. Other religions, like I had mentioned, there's some other religions that are pretty violent. Don't think warm, fuzzy thoughts towards us. And I know where my kid is. So if you think that I don't have any struggles when it comes to this, I do. Huge. Because I understand the potential of what could happen to my child. I get it. He also knows. So I'm in that position where it's like, how do I love somebody that would kill my child? And not swiftly and mercifully. How do I, as a Jesus follower, how do I love other religions that would do that to any of us sitting here? That would force me to live a life of abject horror as a female. Or worse, a young female child that's sold off to an old man for a wife. Those are realities in our world. My hate long ago got replaced with I can love you enough to pray over you that somehow freedom would find you. And I know for me, that freedom is true faith in the real God and the real Jesus. I can pray freedom for women in bondage in that religion. My heart hurts for them. I can pray over these children being raised up with these thoughts and mindsets that do, because of religion, we do this and we are willing to murder to do it. And I can do that because it's difficult to sit and point the fingers at them when we can look at history. Should we talk about the Crusades in the name of God? You want to talk about barbaric brutality? Repent or die. And they made good on that. Christians. To me, it doesn't look much different than these religions in the Middle East or Asia or anywhere else for that matter. We were that bad. We did the same thing. We may not slaughter today with a weapon as Christians, but how often do we use our voices to literally destroy people that don't think like us or believe like us? And we're not called to that ever. If the whole point is, it's like, it should be, I wish people knew what I had, or I would love to tell people about what's happened in my life. Do you think hating people is going to make them say, hey, I want to be just like that? Tell me about it. Why do you hate me so much? Yeah, you hate me, so I'm going to change my mind. You hate me, so I'm going to come and sit in your church building. It doesn't work that way at all. You can't hate people into a relationship with God. It didn't work on me, trying to force me into a religious box. It doesn't work that way. And we can't approach other religions that same way. Moving on, just because I could go on forever. Whoo, yeah, we're going to talk about this one, you know, the thing you never talk about at the dinner table or at church or in mixed company or ever, especially now, because holy cow, people are going to, it's ugly. I don't remember this when I was younger and growing up. People talked about politics, they talked about voting, and nobody got bullied or dogpiled on because their view was different. You could talk about it. You can't anymore. People are afraid to put a sign in their yard. People are afraid, fear because we thought about something and decided to vote for a certain person. John 7:24. Don't be hypocritical. Use your head and heart to discern what is right, to test what is authentically right. To do that, that means you have to listen. I can tell you, because of my background and bringing up, we were told and raised to be staunch, ultra conservative Republicans always, in everything Republican, because it's all perfect and good and the other is all evil. It was difficult for me in my unlearning of everything that I had been taught so I could find out for myself what I believe and why. To learn that a lot of the causes in the Democratic Party are far more like Jesus than Republicans are. So I'm not a one-party girl. You're going to get me on issues and all this thing. I do a lot of research and I do a lot of studying, but I can't tell you I'm a one-party girl. I can tell you that I'm a Jesus girl. I can tell you what matters to me and how I think people should be and how they should live their life. I think things should be led from a place of love and kindness and compassion and serving, because that's kind of the model that we were called to serve, Jesus. He didn't come here and overthrew governments and set up a one-party system and unless you count, love me, a one-party system. He's kind of my one party, but he wouldn't come here and say, I love all Republicans and I hate all Democrats. And that was a surprise for me in my undoing, because we were taught that Republicans were Christians. Really? And then I was taught that all Democrats are horrible. Well, I haven't found that to be true on either side at all. It matters greatly that you really study and you know and you understand why you vote and choose people to represent you as you do. What they believe in and how they treat people does matter. if you're a follower of God and Jesus. And then that way, it takes away all that black and white easy stuff. Now it's all gray and sticky. You got to figure it out, meaning you can't just blindly follow one party because it has a label on it. They don't always get it right. But at the end of the day, why can't you have a conversation that has a different viewpoint from you? Because what that tells me, because what it told me is I'm not strong in where I stand. If I can't have a discussion civilly with somebody with a different viewpoint, I'm not strong in my position. Because I can tell you now, I'll talk to anybody of any political view, and I won't be bothered by it because I'm secure in my opinions and my thoughts because I've researched and thought about it for myself. I'm not afraid of opposing viewpoints. And sometimes listening to an opposing viewpoint has been an education that I needed, or a conviction that I needed. Maybe I needed to be challenged on something that I was standing strong on. I'm not dying on any political hills ever again. My former Facebook is an epic embarrassment to me in former political voting seasons. I was ridiculous. Ridiculous on my bandwagon and blah. You won't hear it from me anymore ever again. I don't care who you vote for. That's not for me to care about. That is your decision. All I ask is you put thought into it beyond a label. And look to who these people are, because people can say anything they want to. But is that who they are? And that's, do your words match the way you live and treat people? That matters to me. It causes some sticky things because I'm also aware of the world and how it works. I'm very aware of how much danger is out there. For a long time, just because of the nature of what my job was, and I was also FEMA cleared at a pretty high level, and I got emails that came to me that don't get read by very many people. I know the reality of how dangerous it can be out there. I know the dangers in our country. I know the dangers around the world. I know. So do I allow my fear of the potential of what could happen, because it could be bad? Do I allow that fear to override what I know is right at the end of the day? It gets sticky. Sometimes I don't get an absolute answer, but I have to do my best, and I can take it to him, like, help me to understand what's the best choice in this area. But that politics thing, don't hate people if they vote different, think different, believe different. Have the conversations and learn. Hear them. It doesn't mean you have to change your mind, but you shouldn't fear hearing something that is different than how you think. We don't have to be. Not if we're secure and sure of our belief. Moving on. Let's talk about racism. Romans 14. So where does that leave you when you criticize a brother? And where does that leave you when you condescend to a sister? I'd say it leaves you looking pretty silly, or worse. Eventually, we're all going to end up kneeling side by side in the place of judgment facing God. Your critical and condescending ways aren't going to improve your position there one bit. Read it for yourself in Scripture. As I live and breathe, God says, every knee will bow before me. Every tongue will tell the honest truth that I and only I am God. So mind your own business. You've got your hands full just taking care of your own life before God. Me as an example again, I grew up in an incredibly racist family. Making horrible jokes about African American people was the norm all the time. About the Hispanics that came up and worked in the fields all the time. It was normal. White people like us, we're God's chosen people. Well, I thought that was the Jews, and they're not white people like us. But hey, if that's how you see it. Last time I looked, Middle Easterners typically weren't blue-eyed and blonde. But somehow God just changed his mind and went with the pale ones. You know, I had when I would challenge that when I was younger at home, my mother's like, can you imagine if you had your daughter with a black man and you had a mixed child? Actually, I can because I have two. I have two of those children today. My son-in-law is black. Not mixed, he's black. And those of you here that have heard me talk about Will know how I feel about him. I love that man. He is one of the best men I have ever had the privilege of knowing. That man knows how to be a man. He knows how to be a good example to his children, my grandson and my granddaughter. He knows how to be a good husband because my wife gets put first in everything he does because he believes that's his calling as the head of his home, is to make sure that his wife is held up first. To see somebody love my daughter like that is precious to me. And for me to look at him and say, well, your skin is dark, I don't want nothing to do with you. Why did that happen? Why did having darker skin or different types of hair, any of that stuff, since when did that become something to judge somebody on? Like, see me in August. Are you going to judge me then? Because I'm telling you, might have a hard time telling the difference. This girl gets really, 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 really dark in the sun. I'm still the same person. We've come a long way from this. We don't have these signs. And in fact, we're almost now, and this was talked about the other day, in some aspects, it's almost gone the other way. And that's not good either. Racism in any form is horrible, and it's hideous, and it's ugly, because God created and breathed life into them and called them his children, just like me. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care, because God gave it to them. God made my son-in-law Will a dark-skinned man with black afro hair and a beautiful mind and a loving heart and a desire to stay a junior high STEM teacher when he has colleges begging him to come for 3 times the money, because he believes it's important that other young boys that look like him have a good role model so they can see what's possible, that this life they're caught in doesn't have to stay looking like this. So he chooses schools that other teachers don't want to be at. That's my black son-in-law. It's awful, the hatred simply because of the packaging God sent me in. I didn't choose this. I didn't choose before I was born. I didn't get to put an order in that said, God, I'd like to have kind of like medium white skin, and I would like my eyes to be blue, and I want to have very dark hair, because my hair used to be very dark hair, and I want to tan easily, and I want to be about 5 foot 4.5 on a tall day, and I didn't get to order any of that. He did. Every single cell in being. And that's true for every person on the planet. Everyone. Jesus didn't look like me. He didn't look like my husband. He didn't look like Dave. Jesus didn't look like anybody sitting in this place. Why? Because he's a Middle Eastern Jew. He wasn't a white Caucasian. All the pictures in all these Christian homes of white Jesus, and as somebody says, I always say, with white girl hair extension hair, silky light brown hair. I really don't think Jesus looked like that. Why did we make him that? Why? Because we're the white people have it all figured out and we're the best? No. Our skin didn't make us any better than anybody else on this planet. Nor did having dark skin make you better than anybody else, or brown skin or yellow skin. Nothing. There are times when I'm like, if everybody was blind, it would be a blessing and there wouldn't be so much hate in this world. Take away your eyesight and you start judging on character and who people are instead of what you look like, where you may have come from. Maybe sometimes go into your relationships with your eyes closed so you can actually get to know them instead of making a judgment on appearance. Moving right along to the next fun topic, because I've got a lot of them. How about this one? This is a hot topic right now. Proverbs 31, verse 9. Speak up for the people who have no voice, for the rights of all the misfits. Speak out for justice and stand up for the poor and the destitute. Has anybody heard that immigration in this country is kind of a hot topic right now? You know, what? Nothing, I know. There's no problem. No, nothing here. We never talk about it here. So here I go. Very honest again. Here I go. This is another one that I have to work very hard to put in the proper place in my life. There are times I am grateful for knowledge that I got when I had my FEMA clearance and access to some high-level stuff. And then there's other days I really wish I didn't know that because boy, do I judge that border harshly. Slam it shut, haul them all out, herd them up, get them out, come in the right way and do it right because this is my country. Well, it became my country when we invaded it. I have to remember that. So was that okay then, or we just say, yeah, it was bad then. But now that we're here, we get to decide that. You know, those are all the sticky things. I'm not telling you black and white how to think about it. We have to be reasonable. Safety matters. It can't be a free-for-all. Because I do know for a fact we have so many dangers in our country because of an open border. So I'm still struggling to get all of that to set in the right places. So at the end of the day, this is what I have to do. Regardless of how somebody got into this country that I live in, if I am going to stand and be true to who I say that I am and who I follow and believe in, wherever I am in my world, if I see somebody in need, I have a calling on my life to help. Without asking questions first to make sure you meet my criteria to be more like me. And trust me, I looked. I tried to find it. I tried to find in the Bible where it said you don't have to help those, though, because they didn't come in this country the right way. So they're excluded from any of your mercy. Because after all, Jesus said to me, I didn't do everything for you because you were deserving. I wasn't deserving of anything he did for me. Nothing, because I didn't do any of it right. I didn't come into knowledge of Jesus because I did it all the right way. I didn't get myself perfect and I can stand and tell other people how it's got to be. We can stand for what is right. Rules and law are good because it keeps order and it keeps our society from becoming chaos. But we cannot forget the mandate to love as we do that. And that's where it gets sticky. If you say you love Jesus, and loving Jesus means I want to be most like Jesus, you have to ask yourself, what would Jesus do if he came face to face with an illegal immigrant in need of help? Would he have done this? Not here for you. I didn't come for you. You didn't do it right. Because if he says that to them, I have no hope. If you coming in a country outside of the rules means Jesus isn't going to help you, there is no hope for me. Some things aren't easy topics. Some things aren't going to be black and white. Yes, there are people in this country that need to not be in this country. They did not come here seeking to improve society, to be part of community, to contribute, to help make other people's lives better. They came for the opposite. That is a danger and that's an enemy, and we are allowed to protect ourselves. But we need to do it in the right way. And I'm so glad I don't have to make those choices and decisions. I am so thankful every day God didn't call me to politics. Thank you, God. Can you imagine? Oh. The weight on those that make decisions for a country, I can't even imagine, because there's a lot to answer for. There is so much to answer for. But it's a topic, it's like, Jesus, what would you do? How would you love them? And sometimes part of love means consequences. I'm not saying that's not the case. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying having a lack of mercy or love towards somebody because they didn't follow the rules, we don't get that pass in this Bible. We don't get the except for them. I'm not asking you to love them. Moving on to the next joyful topic here. The LGBTQ community. I'm going to read this first. 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 7. A lot of you will understand or be familiar with this. If I speak with human eloquence and angelic ecstasy, but I don't love, I'm nothing but the creaking of a rusty gate. If I speak God's word with power and I reveal all of his mysteries and I make everything plain as day, and if I have faith that says to a mountain, jump, and it jumps, but I don't love, I'm nothing. If I give everything I own to the poor and even go to the stake to be burned as a martyr, but I don't love, I have gotten nowhere. So no matter what I say, what I believe, and what I do, I'm bankrupt without love. Love never gives up. Love cares more for others than for self. Love doesn't want what it doesn't have. Love doesn't strut. It doesn't have a swelled head. It doesn't force itself on others. It isn't always me first. It doesn't fly off the handle. It doesn't keep score of the sins of others. It doesn't revel when others grovel. It takes pleasure in the flowering of truth. It puts up with anything and trusts God always. Always looks for the best. Never looks back, but keeps going to the end. Love never dies. Inspired speech will be over someday. Praying in tongues will end. Understanding will reach its limit. We know only a portion of the truth, and what we say about God is always incomplete. But when the complete arrives, our incompletes will be canceled. The things I heard about this community from the church I grew up in is nothing short of evil. Anybody that dealt with this in church and would go to an elder or a minister to talk to them about this, promptly found themselves excommunicated, because we don't want to see that, because it's contagious and it's going to rub off on the kids. Newsflash, it doesn't work that way. This isn't contagious. It's not a virus. It's not a disease. You don't catch it by sitting by it. My views, my thoughts, my opinions has been radically turned upside down on its head when I got a phone call 8 years ago from my oldest child, fully expecting me to disown them and never talk to them again because they're part of this community. My oldest child. I love my oldest child with every fiber in my being. And that never changed. Not before the phone call, and especially not after. I am grateful for the lessons my child has taught me in love and acceptance, in being authentic. Because I'm telling you, my child would never have said, I just decided this is the path I'm going to take. Because I'm telling you, it can be hellish. I can tell you the things that have been said to my child's face because I was standing next to her. God created them too. God says, I love them too. God says, I know everything about them. I can tell you that my oldest is in upper management for Herman Miller and runs the entire international department for them. And it's because she pours herself into people. Because she supports people and loves them. She's always available and there. She will go the distance. She will go to bat for them. She will fight for them, and she believes in you. She has made radical changes there in the way things are done, and it's improved morale and productivity, and people are happier. And in fact, there's people that want desperately to work on that team because of the management. Kind to everyone, including the people at work that openly are trying to get her fired, simply because of who she is. And she's still kind, even to them. And if you don't think watching these things happen made me think back to the days when my judgmental, vile self used to look at people in that community the way that I did, if you don't think I have been broken over that, because the love and acceptance and the being there that she shows outdid anybody I ever sat in church with. When you make a list of attributes of Jesus, like this is how you love, she checked off more boxes than a lot of Christians did. My biggest problem, though, comes down to this. How many of you would keep going back to church if we talked about people who lie the same way we do about people in this community? How about people that have cheated, stolen, used drugs? Like, we're all so quick. We like to believe that we have it all figured out, and like, this is a sin, and this is a sin, and this is a sin, and then we rate them. You know, I'm a sinner, but the good sins, you know, the redeemable kind, you know, the good kind that Jesus is okay with. I'm that kind of sinner. But everybody else, they're the other kind. The dirty kind. No, they're not. No, they're not. No different than me, and no different than you. And I'm saying that because he said that. I have looked for passages that show me that in this exception, I don't have to love. If you know where that is in the Bible, will you tell me? Because I don't find it. I just see love. That's it. All those rules we like to put on people, like your life has to look like this, fit it in a box. When it looks like mine, I'm comfortable with you. Well, learn to get uncomfortable. Because you're the only person like you. Only you. Nobody is better than anybody else on this planet. And I say that knowing there's people on this planet that have done really awful things. But if I could open up my brain, imagine plugging it to some computer thing, and on that screen, you would be able to see every single thought that has ever run through my head. Your entire opinion of me would be turned upside down on its head because I am a flawed human being that has seriously screwed up life. We're so busy hating things that are different than us. Why? Why? Why do we hate?
Insecurity.
Yeah. It's a very selfish thing. But I'm better than you. I'm better than you. You gotta be like me. I'm gonna hate you because you're not living the way I feel you should live. I want you to live like this and look like me so I'm comfortable with you, and then I can be with you, and then I'll bring you to church. I am openly stating right here, and this will not change. I can promise you that. As long as I'm here and as long as I have the privilege of talking up here on Sunday, these doors are open to anybody who has a desire to walk through them and sit inside this space. I don't care where you come from. I mean that. I mean that. I've never been in another church building that I could have invited my child to come with me. Because I came from places that when they would start to condemn this group of people, many of whom are incredibly amazing, beautiful human beings that I love dearly, people started cheering and clapping at the hate. As I sat in there saying, you are cheering and clapping over hatred of my child. That's not right. You shouldn't be cheering when a pastor is saying, make sure you go up to them and make sure you tell them they're wrong and make sure they're never in here and make sure they're never around our kids because we don't want them to catch it. I'm over it. Celebrate everybody who comes in the doors that wants to know more about Jesus. Amen. I don't care where you're at because I know where I've been at. If you think this is awful, you should see what I've done. Because if they shouldn't walk in the doors here, neither should I. And that's just how it is in this space. And I understand there's some people that just can't get on board with that. I will not run anybody down and try to convince you and change your mind. But I will gladly talk with anybody about my beliefs and the reason why I do things the way I do anytime you want to. Because I will always die on the hill of loving people before I will die on the hill of hating people. I am not responsible for anybody's salvation. I am not responsible for anybody's choices. I'm not responsible for any of that. I am responsible to speak my truth and to live my life authentically, following and modeling Jesus to the best of my ability, and he said to love people. Except for gay people? Doesn't say that. It says love God and love people. Period. And I take that seriously. Even when it's hard. This isn't hard for me to love this community. I'm not uncomfortable. I welcome everybody through these doors. How about just the general sinners? Because that kind of shakes out on all of us. So, anybody here not a sinner? So, 1 Corinthians 5. But I am saying that you shouldn't act as if anything is just fine when a friend who claims to be a Christian is promiscuous or crooked, is flip with God or rude to friends, gets drunk or becomes greedy and predatory. You can't just go along with this, treating it as acceptable behavior. This is the important part. I'm not responsible for what the outsiders do, but don't we have some responsibility for those within our community of believers? God decides on the outsiders, but we need to decide when our brothers and sisters are out of line, and if necessary, clean house. This verse, that passage, was the passage that was read and used as the reason to excommunicate and shun me from the denomination I grew up in. We're just following what the Bible says. Got to kick you out. You don't exist here anymore, but that is not what that is saying. It gets used a lot, and it's, but people who use that Bible as a club, as a weapon. What it is saying, if somebody stands up and is openly professing to be a devout follower of Jesus, and at the same time walks into church with his wife and girlfriend and sits there, devout Christian, no, you're not. I have the right to privately ask for conversation and discuss that, because that isn't right. If you claim to be a devout follower, and yet you say, but I want this girlfriend too. I have the right to say something because you're my brother and sister in Jesus. That's when we can use that righteous judgment that gets talked about. That's how and when that's used. That's for people who are professing. They know Jesus. They've accepted Jesus. They were probably baptized. They take Lord's Supper. They do all the things except live the life. That's the difference. It's the people saying it and not doing it. But if somebody has not made those decisions, is not walking that same walk of faith, does not know God and Jesus as you do, we are not to judge them as if they do. That's where we get off the rails. That's it. People who don't know Jesus cannot be judged by that standard. And when it says, treat them as publicans and Pharisees in my King James, they took that to believe that that's why you shun them and you never talk to them again. No. Do you know what Jesus did? He went and sat with and talked with them. So if somebody is dealing with a sin and it's been dealt with at a church community level, you don't cut them off and remove them from community. You treat them as if they don't know Jesus. And how do we treat them? We love them. We love them. How else will they know Jesus? Kicking them out and never talking to them, how well does that work? It doesn't. And yet that verse has been used to excommunicate and shun people, which is horrible. If you want to know about it, I'll fill you in on what it's like. Still going on, because once they commit to it, it sticks forever. That's not God. That is not God, ever. We can't walk in and have this rating scale. Your sin's worse. Mine is way better. At least I don't do that while you're doing this. Get off the rating scale thing. We didn't have to reach 783 sins before Jesus then had to die for their sins. 1. So has anybody here ever done something they shouldn't have done?
No, not me.
Exactly. What does that do? Makes the playing field pretty flat. I'm telling you, not a single one of us here is going to be elevated at that time over other people going, oh, look at me, I'm so good, I'm on the tall platform. No. You're going to be on your face like everybody else. And that reality, I'm sure, is going to hit me so full force of how unworthy I literally am. Because left to my own, I am a mess. I like a lot of what he holds out to me. Just eat it. I know you want to do that. God wants you to be happy. Just do it. Nobody will know. That worked on me. You know, my enemy makes things I shouldn't do look really fun and really pretty. You know, those shiny objects grab your attention and then lead to where many of us know. Every single one of us has our flaws. Every single one of us sins every day, all the time. And probably every single one of us has had situations where they've judged people. Even sometimes in being great, amazing, wonderful people that, you know, in recovery and doing this good, we can catch ourselves, like I have many times this week, like, a judge. It's an automatic human tendency that we have. We just do. But we are not to be judgy type of people. The Bible doesn't say we can never judge. It doesn't say never. But here's the disclaimer. And this one, when I grasped what this actually is saying, changed the way I try to live my life. The same way that you judge other people will be the standard that you will be held to. I hated that. because I know what that means in my life, because I know the judging I've done. The idea of looking God in the face, knowing that my judge is going to judge in the way I have demonstrated. And that's horrible. I know where I'm going. I know that Jesus died for me. I know that heaven and eternity is waiting for me. I also know I'm going to have, I don't know for how long, because I don't know what heaven's like. I am sure, though, that I will be allowed to feel, probably momentarily, the full weight of the knowledge of what I've done. I can't imagine. But I think the reason for that is because it's like when you go through a bad time, doesn't it make the good time that much sweeter? When you have full knowledge of what you deserve as you step into what you've been given, I shivers just thinking about that. When I deserve death and I'm given life forever because somebody else paid for me, and I know what I'm deserving of. I know how I should be judged because I did it to others. Unaccepting, intolerant, better than, you're beneath me. At least I didn't do what you did. Pointing out everybody else's flaws. My list of flaws is pretty long. Maybe once I get done reading those off, I can get to other people's, but until then, it's not for me to point out to them. Let's see. Luke 6, 37 and 38. Don't pick on people, jump on their failures, criticize their faults, unless, of course, you want the same treatment. Don't condemn those who are down. That hardness can boomerang. Be easy on people and you'll find life a lot easier. Give away your life. You'll find life given back, but not merely given back. Given back with bonus and blessing. Giving, not getting, is the way. Generosity begets generosity. We need to look in the mirrors. We need to, here you go, Dave, your favorite step, step 4. We'll use that as a, it is difficult to look in a mirror and take ownership of exactly what's there. Because it's a lot easier to look at somebody else and point out what's there. It's not what we're to do. You look in that mirror and you make a list of your own. Because I promise you, like it or not, you'll have plenty to work with there if you're anything like me. Why do we spend so much time pointing at other people and none on getting the junk out of our lives? Why aren't we holding our life up in front of us and judging that? Because isn't that where it should start? And once you've done that, and I can say this because I've done it, I did step 4. I wasn't one that took forever because I knew if I waited, I'd never do it. And I'm not like I didn't do it the traditional way. I have been through all the steps. I've completed all the thing, but didn't do it in the formal traditional way. But I did this one and I meant it. Nothing in me wanted to do it. Nothing in me wanted to actually come to terms with the reality of who I am, where I've fallen short, where I get it wrong, people I've done wrong to because of opinion of self. We need to be looking more at ourselves and our own lives than we ever do picking apart the lives of other people. We get so worried that, what if they don't ever figure out that they're doing it all wrong? Do you have no trust or faith in the one that can manage that? Why do you think he needs our help? Because he doesn't. He doesn't. Because going back to the cross, he died once for all. Which means fully aware of every person, every action, every sin. None of it's a surprise. He is not shocked when Heidi screws up again. Yeah, I knew you were going to do that. I took care of it for you. Think of it as paid in advance. Everything for me was paid in advance. So when I look at other people and I want to point out the flaws and the sins, why don't I say the same thing about them? But Jesus paid for that in advance. It's covered. Why do I feel like I have to hate you because of your sin that Jesus died for and you don't know my Jesus? Shouldn't I instead want to live a life that maybe because I'm kind and I'm good and I'm loving and I'm serving will make people say, why do you do that with people who are like that to you? Let me tell you. Let me tell you why I do that. I can't wait to tell you how different my life is. I know where my life has been and I know where it is now, and the difference has been through love and service. I'm shedding the judgmental. I'm shedding all that legalistic rules and regulations because Jesus came to fulfill the law. What that means is we don't live under that old law like they used to. Doesn't mean it's a free-for-all, do whatever you want to. What it means is because he died and we have the Spirit, when you lean into him, you won't want to do those things. That's it. When you love Jesus, you are not going to want to do things that will cause harm to others. You will simply want to love them because you will want them to love Jesus, because you know the freedom that's there. I hate judgment and hate. I just hate it so much. We're going to finish on this. My favorite picture. Love like me. So how do we treat people? 1 John 4:10-11 said, this is the kind of love we are talking about. Not that we once upon a time loved God, but that he loved us and sent his son as a sacrifice. My dear, dear friends, if God loved us like this, we certainly ought to love each other. And Colossians 3:12-14 says, so, chosen by God for this new life of love, dress in the wardrobe God picked out for you. Compassion, kindness, humility, quiet strength, discipline. And regardless of what else you put on, wear love. It's your basic all-purpose garment, and never, ever be without it. Romans 8:38-39 says, I'm absolutely convinced that nothing living or dead, angelic or demonic, today or tomorrow, high or low, thinkable or unthinkable, absolutely nothing can get between us and God's love because of the way that Jesus, our Master, has embraced us. In Ephesians 3:18-19, and we're finishing on this, you'll be able to take in with all followers of Jesus the extravagant dimensions of Christ's love. Reach out and experience the breadth. Test its length, plumb the depths, rise to the heights, live full lives. full in the fullness of God. The way Jesus laid it out, there is no room for judgment of other people. It's difficult to do that when you're trying to follow the command to love, because it kind of overrides the judgment desire. I find now that I'm just so eager, it's like, I want to know you so I know how to love you. I cannot know how to love you if I reject you right out of the gates. Which means I need to and want to sit with you to understand you right where you are at. Don't clean it up, don't make it pretty, don't call it anything but what it is. Bring me all of it raw and exactly as it is. Because unless I know that, I won't know how to love you. The freedom that I have found in being able to simply love people instead of being worried about what they're doing is beyond words to me. It brings me such joy to be free of the anchor that judgment and hate brought into my life when I didn't accept people simply because of who they were, where they live, how they act, fill in the blank, any of it. I let it go. And I'm on this radical path. I'm literally determined to love everybody I cross paths with, right where you're at, as you are. Because to me, that's the best that I can do on earth, to be like Jesus. I would rather face my God and be accused of loving too much than of loving too little. He says, be extravagant. What comes to mind when you think extravagant? Small? The norm? In only the comfortable ways? Extravagant doesn't mean that. If you struggle in areas with loving certain people, just bring it to God and tell him. Because again, that newsflash thing that we do, he already knows. All those little secrets we keep, it's so surprising to find out that, oh, it wasn't a secret. You knew that one? Thought I got that by you. Huh. All the people in the world, and you saw me do that. Oh, you caught that thought. Yeah, I'm your girl, and boy, I threw some shade at that person that didn't deserve it. Like last night, I was very kind of abrupt with the poor girl making the lemonade that didn't have much lemon in it for 20 minutes. Slow moving line. The food I'd picked up is very cold now. I'm like, oh, we're going. And then it's my turn. And then she decides it's time to batter up a bunch of hot dogs for corn dogs. I'm like, I just want some lemonade. And I didn't have patience. And I didn't have grace. And I didn't have empathy for her. And I was deeply convicted as my husband and I were later sitting next to that trailer eating my elephant ears with cinnamon and sugar and my funnel cake with powdered sugar and loving every minute of it and smeared with it as I'm watching this girl next to me in her lemonade trailer, cleaning it all down and finishing up after a long day. And everything in me is like, you need to take care of this. And I did. So I got myself up and I walked over there and I said, I just need to say that I am so sorry for how abrupt I was. And she's like, well, I remember you, but she goes, you were quiet. And I said, I was bordering on rude, and I feel really bad about that. I said, you were really busy. You're working all by yourself. You got a very long line. You got a lot of people making demands on you. And me, thinking I'm all that, comes in your line, and I'm pissed off because I have to wait. Well, the people behind me had to wait longer. What made me so special? What made me somebody that needed her lemonade in 5 minutes or less? I mean, she's freaking cutting lemons and squeezing them and doing all this stuff for so many people. So I got myself up, tore myself away from my freshly made elephant ear. That was perfect. And I took care of that with her. And she just looked at me and she started crying and she says, thank you. She goes, sometimes it gets really hard. I don't think a lot of adults, dream of running a lemonade and corn dog trailer at a carnival. But there's a price to get that money. And she was sweet and she was kind to everybody. Everybody that walked up, she said, thank you so much for your patience. I know you waited a long time. And I had to be a jerk. I know. I said I'll be real, but I took care of it because she didn't deserve it. I made judgments. Be faster, move faster, get somebody else. Duh. Why didn't you have them all squished out ahead of time? You'd have a lot more juice to work with. I wasn't inside that thing running it. She was. I didn't have to make lemonade. She made it for me. I didn't have to make corn dogs. She did. All I had to do was just hold my box of food that somebody else made for me. I didn't have to make it. Somebody else prepared a fresh squeeze. I didn't have to. And I got cranky because I had to wait. And I started making judgments on her and wasn't kind. And I felt really, really pretty crappy watching her just wiping down the insides of this little trailer, getting ready for the next day. I was deeply convicted how often I get kind of judgy. And I realize it's because I make myself more important than them. That doesn't feel good. I don't get it right, but I'm trying. And that's all we're called to. Every single one of us as human beings, we struggle with judging. It's just human nature. We notice differences, but we shouldn't hate the differences. Maybe lean into it. I'm grateful we're not all the same. It keeps life interesting, trust me. God was good in that way. But don't forget that when he died on the cross, it was for everybody equally. All you have to do is say, I want that. I want what you're giving me. So if that's true for everybody equally, how do we explain our judging them? Because they're not living just like us or looking just like us. It's not always black and white. It gets difficult. I struggle with some things, trying to figure out what's the right view and how do you manage this best, both as a citizen of this country, but most importantly as a citizen of heaven. Because in my book, that's now more important to me. And it's not always really popular. I am just starting to understand how radical Jesus was when he showed up on the scene. I'm starting to understand how he turned things upside down and made people really question. I think I would have really liked him for that. But I'm also finding it's not always easy to do that as a human being in this world. There are days when I'd rather not be judged. There are days when I question whether me as a woman should have become ordained and decided to do church, because that's not always popular. But I hope to be radical in all the right ways, just like he was, because he was radical in how he loved. And that, to me, is probably one of the most beautiful things I could imagine in this world. If we could all be radical and how we simply love people. So that's my challenge. Pick an area that you're struggling in. And I'm going to say, don't pick the easy area you're struggling in. Challenge yourself. Go really deep and go to that one place where you're like, I can imagine for my nephew today, I can imagine some of the struggles he deals with on a day like Memorial Day. He's trying to figure out, where do I go with that hate? He said it cost me 13 friends that I had to watch die. Because he's got survivor's guilt, because he was supposed to be down there, and 5 minutes earlier they sent him up to the guard shack. And then he watched them all die and then had to pick them up. So I know today he's dying a million deaths and living with his demons. If I think that's simple for him, I'm a cruel person. Let's practice some radical love. God will sort out the other things. I don't believe God's going to look at you and say, lousy job, lover of people. Ever. He will say thank you for trying to be like my son. Thank you for loving when it was hard for you to do it. Thank you for facing those places in you that need to be faced. That's all he's asking, is just to love. Yes, Carol.
I was so thankful talking to you yesterday, because it was such an example of that. Because I knew my heart was wrong in the way I was looking at two different situations. And I know with the breadth of your experience that I could come to talk to you about it. And it gave me by communicating it, it gave me an understanding of where I needed to adjust my thinking. And the call to understand others so different from us. I mean, we're all the same here.
Yeah.
Every human being, but yet so different.
Yes.
But to take the time and look at ourselves first, because I knew my heart was wrong, but then talking to you to get the perspective of those two situations that were so different. Because
Yeah.
we do not know how to act if we've not been taught. So
Yes.
we go to people and get perspectives from others that have been there.
Yep.
And then we, because otherwise we're not going to know how to do it.
Exactly.
But the main thing is loving
Yeah.
God and loving others.
Yes.
So thank you for your message today. Beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Every,
Thank you. And I loved our conversation yesterday.
pardon?
I loved our conversation yesterday.
The burden just fell off. And
That,
just how
oh,
to continue on with
it makes my heart happy.
because everybody's different than us, and to have an
Yes.
understanding, work for that, but looking at ourselves first.
Yes. Thank you, Carol. Thank you. I know, I'm long-winded. We're going to sing this last song, and we will pray.